Welcome to the MEF2C cast, the podcast advocating for the MEF2C haploinsufficiency community by broadcasting the voices within. I'm Eli.
And I'm Haley. We are parents to a boy with MCHS and autism, sharing our journey with you throughout conversations grounded in learning, support, and community.
This is Advocacy Amplified. Do you have questions, comments, or a story to share? Want to be a guest on the show? Connect with the MEF2Ccast on Facebook, mef2ccast.com, or email us at mef2cast@gmail.com.
If you enjoy the show, please support us by subscribing to the show on Apple and Spotify, leaving us a review, and following us on social media. You can also buy MEF2Ccast merch at our Shopify store, linked in the podcast description. The MEF2Ccast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and not necessarily of the podcast or its sponsors. This is not medical advice. Consult a healthcare professional for medical concerns.
Alrighty, hi everybody. Welcome to the MEF2Ccast. Our guests today are Moriah and Adam Zwick, who are parents to Noah. How are you guys today?
We're doing well. How about you
Good.
guys?
We're good. Thank you for asking. So can you start by just telling us a little bit about yourselves and your family?
Yeah, so I am a nurse. We have been married, or we've been together since high school, and we went to college together in Kentucky. Now we live in the Nashville area and have two boys. Our oldest is 6, and our youngest is our Mefty, and he's 3. That's Noah. But I work locally around here. Right now I'm doing a travel assignment, but yeah, just juggling the nursing at home and the nursing at the hospital.
Awesome.
Adam?
I'm I work from home full time as for a software company.
Yeah, he's my
Gotcha.
IT guy.
Yeah. So I guess you can just start your story wherever you'd like to. When did you tell us about your experience sort of being those parents, the pregnancy, and like maybe when you started to realize that there may be something different about Noah?
Yeah, so everything was completely normal. We did the 10-week blood work whenever I was pregnant just to find out the gender. Like maybe it's a girl this time, but it's another boy. So we were so excited to have another boy. And yeah, everything was normal. It was a routine repeat C-section because I have big babies. And yeah, everything was fine. He came out not really wanting to cry, which that's normal for my boys. They like to give me a hard time. But everything seemed fine. And then once he came home, we just noticed that he was really hard to console. He cried a lot. And we're like, oh boy, our first was an easier baby. So we kind of knew the second baby was going to be a little harder. It's usually how it goes. But yeah, I don't know, I feel like my mother's intuition was just pretty immediate. Like something was different, something was off. He wasn't really looking at me, he wasn't responding to me. What did you think? Did you notice anything right off the bat?
No, I just thought it was a colicky child.
Yeah, he was. And then we also had a 3-year-old at the home, so that was rough.
That's almost universal in every set of parents we've talked to, where the mom's like, I knew something was wrong right away, and the dad was
Yeah.
just kind of like, because I was the same way. I thought he was just a little bit behind, and he'd catch up eventually. But
Yeah, yeah. And he's kind of like the optimistic person, and I'm more like, no, no, there's something. No.
Right.
I'm like the one like torturing myself in the background, like, no, there's something and I can't figure it out. So, and I feel like as mothers, you're going through all of those hormonal shifts and you're really craving that nurturing bond that you guys have that, we all have after our babies are born. And I just didn't have that level with him like I did with my first. So I'm just like, is this me? Like what's going on? So we just kind of kept powering through and tried to make him happy. One thing I heard a lot with like MEF2C kids is that a lot of them are happy. I feel like no, it was not. So we're just like, okay, maybe we got the one that was not very happy. I don't know really what it was. That was the hardest part because I felt like he was yelling at us to figure it out. And we're like, we can't figure it out. we went to the pediatrician and tried to figure out, like, is it reflux? We struggled a lot with the constipation, which now I know a lot of other kids have that issue too. Or just going after, like, list after list, like, what is it that's making him so mad? Yeah, I think, cutting dairy and gluten did help. I feel like once we went to a non-dairy formula, that helped a lot, but he's still, like, we just couldn't figure it out. So, that was kind of torturous for me, I know. Did you have any, like, feel he's my introvert, so
No, it's hard to keep them happy for the most part. That's about it.
Mhm.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it was hard to figure him out, and, I'm more of, like, I guess, an intuitive mom, and it just drove me up a wall, and I think it really contributed to some postpartum depression because I'm like, I can't figure out this kid." Even whenever I picked him up, he wouldn't, like, console. He was just, instead of screaming in the other room, he's screaming in my ear. So, we're like, "Okay, you don't even want me, so what do you want?" So, that was just really hard. It just kinda sends you spiraling after so much time.
I remember sitting on an exercise ball with Leo just, like, on my shoulder crying for hours in the evening, and it was around the 8-week mark, and my boss had sent me a message, and he was like, "What are you thinking? Are you coming back to work soon? Are you that type of message?" And I sent a message back and I said, "Leo's been crying for 3 hours. I'm crying with him. Now's not a good time." So, and he wanted to call me just so that I could hear, like, the tone in his voice to know, like, he was okay with that with me, but, like, get that, what you guys are saying entirely because, like, I felt like he was never happy. And still, like, compared to other MEF2C kids, I feel like maybe Leo's a little bit more high maintenance, I guess, than some of the other ones that we've met. He's just always yelling at us.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, he's very vocal too. Yeah, so is Noah. It's constant. And it's not necessarily now that he's mad, it's just he's just constantly vocally stimming.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, we spent so much time on that exercise ball when he was
Oh my
little. I
god.
remember my friend and his girlfriend came over to meet Leo, and then I laid Leo down for a nap, and I came back, and I was still sitting on the exercise ball just because I was so used to it bouncing as I'm talking to Zane, and I'm looking at him, and his head's going like this as he's talking to me.
Yep.
And then, actually, the same friend came over a few months ago, and, like, you don't realize how loud they are until someone who's not used to it is here, and I
Yep.
had something on TV for Leo, and, I mean, he was just going nuts, and Zane was like, "What is he all" I'm like, "Yeah, that's his happy squeal, we're good."
Yeah.
You learn to recognize the different squeals, but Leo's a lot of his, like, vocality, I guess, I think lately comes from he's really starting to become more independent and be able to tell us what he wants and take us to things. And like that's something that I've heard from other people with nonverbal children, maybe children that have those sort of communication limitations is like once they develop ways to communicate, they're like all about it because
Mhm.
they couldn't for so long. So they're like really adamant about using it whenever they can. So I think that has something to do with it too. So when did you guys sort of realize that it might be, you said he was really fussy and you thought he was just colicky. When did you start to realize that it might be something neurological and sort of go towards genetic testing?
Mhm. So, it was during his pediatrician checkup, I think it was around 9 months, and I remember telling her, like, "Something is not right, something's not right," and I feel like everyone kinda kept gaslighting me. Even, like, I worked in OB at the time, so I worked with a bunch of pediatricians, and they just kept telling me to not compare my children, and I'm like, "Okay, I get what you're saying, but, like, something is different." So, I don't know, I felt like people just weren't supportive in that way, but it was finally at the 9-month appointment that our pediatrician was like, "Okay, he still has a head lag." So whenever she's, like, lifting him up and his head is not pulling up immediately, she's like, that's kind of a that's a neurology thing, so I'm gonna send you guys to neurology." And thankful we are very close to a really good children's hospital, so it's only a 30-minute drive for us on a good day without traffic. But yeah, we saw one of the top neurologists there, and he was just like instantly, all right, let's do genetic testing, let's do an MRI, let's check thyroids because he's a large baby, which didn't help with his low muscle tone. He could barely hold up his head. But yeah, we I think he did a rush on that. So a rush is like 2 weeks to get the results. And yeah, whenever we got the results, it was kind of underwhelming. I feel like he said, "All right, he's missing this part of a chromosome, but, we don't know how many people could be missing chromosomes walking around today." So we kinda acted like it was, like, nothing. So we kinda walked away. Well, I don't remember if he sent that in a portal or if he told us that in person. Do you remember if it was an
I
appointment?
don't remember. I don't remember that part.
It might have been a portal message. And then he referred us to genetics probably like 6 months after that, and then that's whenever he basically hit us with a freight train and said, like, "Don't ever expect him to live on his own. Don't ever expect him to, like, hold a job." And I'm like, "Okay, so that's very different than what the neurologist said." And that's kind of when my, like, whole my grieving process started. I don't know about Adam's, but yeah, it went from lighthearted to super, super heavy. And then that's whenever he encouraged us to join a Facebook group, and I started meeting all these parents that had these deletions and mutations and all of that.
What variation does Noah actually have? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's, the I don't does everyone here have the 5q14.3?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I know it's, like, only he's has, like, a micro deletion right on the MEF2C and, like, a little bit of the AS1,
Gotcha.
Okay.
but yeah. I was trying to research it, but, like, even with my nursing background, it's such gibberish. It's so hard and every doctor that we talk to is just like, "Yeah, we don't really know much about it, so just keep doing what you're doing, do all the therapies," and I remember someone handing me a packet and say, "All right, now you know everything I know." And I'm like, "That's so reassuring."
And that's what a lot of families kind of run into. Like you get that unique packet and that's all that you get. And then you're like, okay, figure it out.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, essentially.
yeah.
So, it was very isolating and
Mhm.
lonely, and it took me a long time to process, and we both processed very differently, resumed normal life, and, I feel like as a man, they can compartmentalize a little bit better than women can, and for me, it became very consuming and just heavy, like going to work, and I was just heavy. It's it's hard, it's you're grieving your child's future, essentially. You have no idea what to expect, and I just can't even let myself think that far ahead anymore.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not only your child's future, but also your
Yeah.
future too. So your entire life just changed, right
Yeah,
at that moment.
essentially, and I mean, like, I still struggle with this today about, like, the selfishness, but I'm just like, "What are we gonna do when we're older?" And, everyone always plans to be empty nesters. Like, how are we gonna do this now? Like, all the resources we have to think about and, hopefully it doesn't it's not as severe as a geneticist says, but we still have to plan for that. So, yeah, it's a lot, and I have to, like, stop myself from spiraling a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, the ideas you had for the future never really existed anyway, you know what I mean? Like, he was born with that gene, so, that and also, like and I find myself when I say a lot of these things, they don't sound as reassuring as I mean, but, like, there are plenty of other kids that, have accidents or contract some sort of disease or things like that, so, like, you feel like something's been taken from you, and that's completely reasonable reaction, but it's not necessarily that you're, like, being persecuted in some way, you know what I mean? Like, there are things all the time that happen to people that change these things, and the future was never guaranteed to begin with, so I think it sounds weird to think about misfortune befalling others is reassuring, but I think it's important to And that's not exactly what I mean, but I think it's important to keep that in perspective that nothing's ever guaranteed to begin with.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so how old was he when you got your diagnosis?
He was about a year, I believe.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's about the same when
Yeah.
yeah. They're Leo and Noah are pretty close in age. You said he turned 3 in June and Leo
Mhm.
turned 3 on Saturday.
Yay.
Did your experience with a geneticist, I know he said he gave you the unique packet and kind of told you these things, but, like, did you walk away feeling a lot of people have really negative experiences with that appointment in particular. Did you think but, like, we didn't, like, our geneticist handled it really well, so sort of, I guess, did you walk away feeling, like, curious about the future or like you'd just been handed, like, this sentence, you know what I mean?
I don't really know what I was feeling in the moment. I just know that it was just heavy. And I remember holding my breath and then just losing it in the car.
Mhm.
I can't remember if it was him or the neurologist, but I remember someone comparing the gene pool as like making a batch of cookies. And we don't know what ingredients we left out until, they're older and we see. So that was kind of reassuring in a way. I'm like, all right, well, I guess we'll find out like what ingredient was left out and how to work on it from there. Yeah, I guess it was a mix of emotions. Like we were happy to have a diagnosis, something to explain, and it's not all in our head. I know I struggled a long time with, oh, we swallowed him way too much and that's why he doesn't use his arms, or we didn't give him enough tummy time. The stuff that moms just, destroy themselves over. But it was nice to have a diagnosis, but it was also real once it was diagnosed. So, just lots of emotions, and I feel like I don't ever feel just one. I feel like I'm thankful that I have a boy that can eat, he can breathe on his own, he doesn't need any tubes, like, because there's so many more children out there that have, so many more conditions. So I'm thankful that, he's healthy in a sense. He's not on any medications. Thankfully, he's only had one seizure ever, and we think that was febrile. So hopefully that stays that way. But also sad that he has to work so hard to do just basic stuff. Right now, we have been trying for years, probably what has he been in feeding therapy 2 years now?
Something like that.
Yeah, 2 years, five different therapists because I'll just like find different jobs or whatever. Just chewing and swallowing is so, so hard for him. He just can't put that process together. So we're like, what do we need to do? Do we need to look at intensives? Do we need to like just trying to find the right resources for him is just it was just a lot. Just constantly your wheels are spinning. Like what do we need to do different to support him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was kind of your course of action after receiving the diagnosis?
Well, I know for me, I didn't really have the drive to do anything until I processed everything, and that took me a long time. Adam, he's my maintaining everything. He makes sure the train keeps going, making sure all the therapies are done. Yeah, we kept adding on therapies. We got him in early intervention. He's in PT, OT, speech, feeding, and hippotherapy. We also do 3 weeks of DMI intensive a week or a year, and we tried music therapy. Like literally anything that someone suggests. We did neurofeedback too. We're just doing because I know like from ages 0 to 7 is like so crucial in their development. So I'm like, as much as we make ourselves sick, trying to cram every little thing we can, if it helps his brain develop more, if we just get little extra neuron activity, then it's worth it. It's worth our gray hairs at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Happened again.
Did you
But I
say
know
neuro neurotherapy? Is that what you call
Neurofeedback, you said?
neurofeedback.
neurofeedback?
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so there's a place here in Tennessee that's called Harmonized Brain Centers, and it's called Lens Neurofeedback. And they basically put these little metal things on his head and it assesses what parts of his brain are more active and which ones are not. So she said a lot of people who are in like traumatic injuries or just like concussions, like just anything, or even emotional trauma, certain parts of their brains can like not turn off, but just really not function in the way they should. So other parts of their brains are on overdrive. So a lot of people who have like ADHD, anxiety, depression, like will go and do this therapy. But I'm thinking, well, what if we could assess Noah's part of his brains and see like what needs to be turned up. So they put these little metal things attached by like a tacky glue, and it sends a really low sound wave to his brain that he can't even hear, but it activates it to just kind of wake it up and balance out the whole brain. So it's really neat. We could definitely tell after a few sessions his mood was a lot more stable, and I think he slept a little bit better. It's funny because she would always ask every single time we went, "How is he sleeping?"
Apparently, there's a specific part that she can do that, like, helps with sleep.
That's interesting.
She did that actually, we did that yesterday was one of his sessions, and he slept really well. So it was interesting to see, like, how immediate it works.
Yeah, I would be interested in I don't really think there's any actual way to test this, but how much of it's certainly not all, but how much of their symptoms are, like, compounded by their lack of sleep, you know what I mean? Because they've got all these neurological issues going on, and they also can't put the energy into growth and or repair that they need to because they're not getting enough sleep because their brain isn't letting them. And I
Mhm.
just wonder how much their symptoms would improve if they could even just get a relatively normal night's sleep. And then a lot of kids are on medications to help them sleep, and then those have side effects that disrupt other things. So,
Yeah.
um,
We we
good.
actually haven't used any melatonin yet. He's still in a crib right now, so I'm sure it'll change when he's not. But, I'm a sleep consultant, so I've learned a lot about sleep psychology and just trying to get him comfortable in his crib. We did a lot of nights where he was just, refusing and protesting very vocally, but he's finally to a point where, like, we'll lay him in his crib and he'll just play there for a couple hours until he falls asleep.
Is he still you said he was big when he was born. Is he still a big boy, or did that even out?
I mean, he's kinda even out. He's 35 pounds, so it's
Gotcha.
definitely affects my back.
Yeah, well, that's what I was just thinking is him being 3 and still in a crib, not in a judgmental way, but in the, like, when I mean, he was a little over 2 when we moved him to his bed
Mhm.
because, like, we both had I mean, I had
Yeah.
some back problems before that, but, like, we both jacked up our back and our hips from slinging him in and out of the crib. Haley would
I was
climb
climbing
into the
in it.
crib with him and then, like, Spider-Man her way out after he'd went to sleep somehow. I don't even know how she did it. So we ended up buying it's a very specific we scoured the internet for floor beds, and we found one that, like, had the right slat spacing and was tall enough because a lot of them do have little rails, but, like, most kids could get like, they're just to keep them in if they, like, roll against it, they're not to, like, keep them in. So it's almost like a crib on the floor, but it was it wasn't terribly expensive. There's one guy in Ukraine that makes them, so it was as much to have it shipped as it was to buy it. And then, war-torn Ukraine, there's some guy making a baby bed for us, like, that's crazy, so but, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine still heaving him in and out of the crib.
Well, thankfully, he stands up and he kinda helps us a little bit, but we definitely had to make some lifestyle adjustments. Like, we went as far as buying a new house last fall because his bedroom was upstairs, and we just could not do it anymore. Like, it was killing us going up and down, up and down. So now we have our bedroom downstairs and his bedroom upstairs and brother's upstairs. I'm sorry, downstairs.
Right.
Thanks. Um, but it's really made a big difference just having him right there. And
How
especially with having a sibling, he will wake up sometimes and he will lose his cool, and he is very vocal about it, and it would wake up brother.
Mhm.
So that's the hard part. But now since we've moved here, since they have a different story apart, it really helps him stay
Yeah.
asleep.
Yeah, generally, more people being awake in the middle of the night doesn't help anything.
No.
We used to do shift change at 4 AM. If he woke up before then, she would take care of it. If he was up or woke up if he was up at 4 AM, I got up, relieved her, and she would go back to bed, or, if he got up after 4 AM, it was my problem, but that's kinda how, because like, what's the point in us both being up? Like, we're just gonna yell at each other, we're tired, and you know what I mean? There's no point in everybody in the house being up at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
You mentioned he stands up now. How does he do with, like, sorta walking and standing and things like that?
Walking's been a challenge for sure. He started taking a few independent steps, month ago?
Yeah, maybe. But everything is very motivated and it's only a couple steps. So it's like
Mhm.
iPad is over here at the couch. He'll take 2 steps to get to the iPad.
Yeah.
It's not just, oh, I'm just going to walk around the house.
Yeah. There's no curiosity, there's no independence with that. Everything is Miss Rachel motivated. So that's our white noise in our house is constantly Miss Rachel. We're just owning it at this point. But I mean, that's he's what I say over and over is like he knows what he's doing. I've looked at Adam several times and I'm like, I feel like he's doing like a traditional 3-year-old tantrum. Like I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like his brain is age appropriate. He just can't express like a normal 3-year-old can. He can't tell his body what to do. So I would be frustrated too. Times I feel I compare most of these kids to like stroke victims because they just can't there's some kind of severed link between telling their body what to do, and it's very frustrating. So I understand why he's mad most of the time.
Yeah, and then it makes parenting harder because, like, we have conversations all the time about whether we're being too, like, permissive or not with him, because you don't know what is normal toddler mischief and what is genuine frustration or, disability that he needs help with. So then you have to kind of try to parse all that part, which is impossible.
Mhm.
Yeah, but do you wear shoes on him? Do you guys do braces or AFOs or anything like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Leo had braces for a while, and they didn't really
They
help a
weighed him
lot,
down a lot more than
Really?
but
Were
anything.
they the short ones or the tall ones?
we had both.
So the tall ones, he he would slide out of them. His PT called him Houdini because somehow he would I don't know, he's talented. But now we do the short ones, and that works really well with some billies that we try to put them on as much as we can when we remember.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it just seemed like having shoes on helped him a lot, and having just, like, all our floors are, like, laminate hardwood,
Mhm.
but, like, we noticed he would walk a lot more at my parents' because they have a carpet in their living room, and then we had a carpet in our living room, and he started walking a lot more. So the combination of the shoes and the carpet and just, like, helping him be more confident, and, like, literally, you know, it was our goal to have him walking by his 3rd birthday, and then, like, his birthday was Saturday. On, like, Wednesday, he's just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna walk now." And then, like, in the last 2 days, it's just, like, he's done crawling. Like, he just walks everywhere now to the best that he can. He still trips on a lot of stuff and things, and if he falls down, he can't stand up independently yet, so he'll crawl from there, but he just all of a sudden, he went from, like, crawling everywhere to he would crawl over to you and grab your hand and walk you places, and then literally, like, Monday, like, he'll just go like this, and 'cause he holds on to your finger, and he just snaps your hand away, and he's like, "No, I'm gonna walk here myself." So,
Do you guys have him in school yet, or is that on the radar yet? No?
No, no, he stays at home with Adam or goes to the grandparents.
mm,
Mhm.
But the hard part is, with like middle class parents, if we say no to the TEIS, then we lose all of the services. Like if we put him in school, then we won't have feeding therapy or speech or PT or OT. It's an either or. So we don't really have
Sorry, what's the TIS?
early intervention through the state.
So,
So
how old when does he transition out of early intervention? In Ohio, it's at age 3, they transition out of early intervention.
They extended it. So it used to be 3, and now they extended it to 5.
Oh, great, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
does does he have an autism diagnosis?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not familiar with Tennessee law, but I've actually been doing a lot of research on autism. We're recording a podcast tomorrow, just kind of like a general overview of autism, and he should be entitled to a lot of those services through school if he's enrolled
He'll
in
still
school.
get PT and OT, I think, in school, but he won't get feeding.
Yeah.
They won't do that.
It doesn't help him access the education. Feeding therapy wouldn't,
I see.
probably. The goals have to allow him to access the education in
Mm.
school, and I don't know how you would.
No,
They
yeah, that's a good
only work on stuff that will help them in school
right,
and not
yeah. No, that
ev
that makes sense of the feeding therapy. I thought you meant, like, everything altogether.
yeah, well,
If I had the choice to keep Leo home longer, I would have.
yeah, and I mean, the schools I know is probably gonna help him a lot, but, I think our goal is to at least keep him home until he can start eating, and then we'll feel more comfortable because the guilt that we I mean, not guilt, but, just the fear that we carry around, even just, like, going to church, like, we're terrified that someone's just gonna give him a snack because he looks like a normal 3-year-old, and we're like, "Please don't." And the faces that we get when we try to explain his issues, they just look, like, petrified, and we're like, "I'm so sorry," and we feel like a burden, and it's just kind of made us not really wanna go anywhere, honestly, which is kinda sad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the tough parts about this whole thing. And we live in a very small town, and it's very small school. So like my grandma goes to church with his teacher. His aide was a year behind us in school. It's a very small building, so it's accessible. The classroom size is small. I can imagine if you were in a much bigger you had kids in a much bigger school system. Like we graduated high school together too. There were 63 kids in our graduating class. So I can't even fathom, if you had to send your kid to a much bigger school where everything was much more spread out and the teachers were spread way more thin, I can certainly see how it would not be worth it.
I guess
Yeah.
my point there was, like, Leo, I think, is seeing his peers do all of these things, and that's maybe motivating him a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, I think modeling is underrated. Like when he learned to crawl, he would get up on his knees and wouldn't do anything for a long time. And then I just got down on the floor one day and crawled around in front of him for a few minutes. And like 3 days he had it figured out. Just
Mm.
watching me crawl around on the floors.
Yeah, you'd think he would have done that with walking too, though.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I think school helped him with walking a lot just because they're not allowed to carry in places.
Yeah.
So he had to walk, that he had to walk everywhere assisted.
Yeah.
And they have the like, if his aide, if it takes him 10 minutes to get from the cafeteria to the classroom, well, that's her job.
Yeah.
"Excuse me, I'm so sorry."
And, you know, we even looked into, like, ABA therapy, and we had someone literally reject him because he wasn't walking, and they're like, "Well, we can't provide physical therapy." Or, like, it just seemed very bizarre, the explanation, and I'm like, "Okay, so we should really have, like, no place to send him right now."
That's so awful, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be worse, but, um, it's just a season right now, so it means that he's meant to be home with us, and we're juggling it, you know, I try to work on as many weekends as I can, but don't have a lot of control over my schedule. The caregiver burnout is definitely there, but you just have to do it. You just have to push through and do what your kids need.
Yeah, you don't really have a choice.
Now, that's what I tell people all the time. They're like, "Oh, you're so strong." And I'm just like, "No, it's just you have no other choice. So you just have to go."
You would be strong too if this is what you were
Yeah,
given.
yeah. Like you do it for your kids.
Right, yeah. Yeah, people say on a similar note, they say like, "Well, that must be really hard," and it's like, every once in a while, you kinda step away and you're like, "Holy smokes," you know what I mean? But most of the time when you're doing it, it's just what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just normal life for you at that point.
Mhm. Yeah. Are there any, like interventions or therapies or anything that you guys have found particularly helpful with Noah?
Probably not as helped the most is hippotherapy, getting his core more stronger.
Mm,
Yeah, I didn't realize how much the core helped in all the other small muscles, like doing. Like we have to strengthen the core and the scapula muscles back there before we can actually chew properly. And I'm like, it's crazy how kids just know how to strengthen these things without telling them, without teaching them.
Leo's OT, because he fights OT like no other, but she says that you have to work from, like, the inside, like, your core out. So, like, we worked on his core for a long time, and then we worked on, like, his shoulder strength and then his arm strength, and then eventually worked on, like, finger stuff. And I don't know, the gross motor came a lot sooner than the fine motor, I guess is what I was getting at there, and that has a lot to do with starting with the core strength too.
Yeah. Yeah, and our oldest, he has a very similar personality to Noah. He's very work smarter, not harder.
Mhm.
I remember them telling us that he has to develop the gross motor before anything else. Like the big they can only develop one major section at a time. And for boys, it's normally gross motor, run, jump, destroy. But that's kind of what we're waiting on. Like, oh, everything else will come, everything else will click once he like crawls, once he walks. But then we just kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and he was so close to walking, like, last year in September, but he just wouldn't because he just wasn't ready yet. He just had to decide when he was ready.
mm,
So, it's a lot of it is just, like, his personality. He's like, I'm good."
Yeah, we've said that before too, I feel like.
yeah, well, and Leo's done the same thing before where he's been like, he'll take like 5 to 10 independent steps for like a couple weeks pretty consistently, and then he would just quit.
2 months,
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, I think part of it maybe too is just it takes them a lot longer to build those wherein those neural pathways in their brain as opposed to other people, and they're not so one of the major contributors to their condition is also neuronal pruning, so not only can they not build the correct pathways, but they can't remove the old pathways, so there's a lot of places for that signal to get lost, and they're devoting more energy to maintaining synapses that they don't need, so all that compounds to just it just takes them a while to wear that skill in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, with Leo, it seems like a lot of those things are like I said, like he figured out crawling in like 3 days. He went from walking assisted for like a few months to all of a sudden he's just like, "Okay, I'm gonna walk by myself now." Like a lot of they're not as gradual as you might see with a typical kid. They're like the there's a term called punctuated equilibrium that describes that, where as opposed to gradualistic, like things changing slowly, they like change almost none and then a lot at once, and that's definitely how his sort of skill acquisition has been. How do you guys have you worked with, like, NAC or visual systems? Do you have any communication systems for him at all, or do you just know which sounds mean what?
More of just which sounds mean what.
Yeah, that's a totally valid system at this point.
Noah's kind of associated dad with iPad, so every time he walks him past the couch, he just follows him around and whines. He's like, "You're not leaving this room until you give me what I want." Yeah, we've tried the iPads, but he still has a hard time with just, like, pressing the buttons. He swipes a lot with his fingers, so that fine motor is gonna take a while for him, but he's good with buttons, singular buttons. He figures those out pretty quickly, but yeah, it's not yet with
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
devices.
Leo does best with, like, the big plastic buttons where you
Yeah.
can press it and it says a word. I think that I would actually be interested to talk to our friend Andrew about this because it seems to me like the screen specifically makes it harder for Leo to like there's something going on with the screen where if it was a picture or a physical thing, he wouldn't like that is some sort of barrier to comprehension to him. and I
Yeah.
don't understand what that is.
Maybe the CVI
Yeah.
Yeah,
deal.
potentially.
Did Leo get, diagnosed?
Not yet. We go in a
We
couple weeks.
yeah, we are going on Halloween actually, which if there's anybody listening in like the Western Pennsylvania, Eastern Ohio area, the Western Pennsylvania School for the Blind has a free clinic where you can get a CVI assessment. So
Awesome.
call those guys and you can get in completely for free. So really good resource to know about. But
We
yeah,
ac
go ahead, sorry.
we actually just had a eval today. So he doesn't have the official diagnosis, but they kinda unofficially told us, yeah, he definitely has it.
Yeah.
So what did that look like, your assessment?
Yeah, so it's kinda interesting because a lot of the symptoms that they were labeling as autism are basically the same as CVI. So he was holding his iPad super close, he's turning it upside down. Sometimes we'll have it against the couch and he'll flip his whole body and watch something
Yep.
upside down. Sometimes before he could stand up, he would put the iPad on the ground, put his face on the iPad, and stick his butt in the air. So it's just all kinds of different configurations.
Leo does all that stuff all the time too, where he'll sit on his knees facing away from the TV and then bend his neck and look back over himself to watch a TV.
Yeah, it's like watching fans and being obsessed with light, so
Lights.
Mhm, mhm.
But sensitive to the sun. So that part is, like, very specific to CVI. So he's light sensitive. As soon as we go outside, he hides his face, and we kinda call that a hug. We enjoy that 2 seconds because he doesn't hug us. So we're just like, "Okay, we're just gonna enjoy this for a minute." But, yeah, so it was really interesting because the toys and, like, light stuff that she brought today, he was very, very intrigued in. Because all the other assessments that they've done for, like, the autism and, the development stuff that they did at, New York, it was all just basic, like, blocks. So, like, "Put this in the cup," and he just looks at her like, "You expect me to do that?" Like,
Right.
he's gonna bang the cup off the table. So, it was I felt like his cup was filled up today with the appropriate toys, and it just felt right. So, that made me excited to see that, and there's actually a CVI clinic that's, like, brand new in Nashville. Apparently, it's the only one in the state of Tennessee, so I guess
Right.
we're gonna look into that. She was telling us that today. But, yeah, so we're excited to see, like, what road this takes us down, and hopefully this will help him with his balance. It could be why it took him so long to walk. But yeah, we're it's bittersweet to get another diagnosis, but it's also nice to understand him a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also feel like we're kind of lucky to be getting these diagnoses, I guess I should say. I don't know
Yep.
if lucky is the right word, but, like, a lot of MEF2C individuals have gone decades, without getting this diagnosis or knowing that it even exists. So early intervention, we're able to, intervene a little bit earlier and help our
It's amazing. The Facebook group is literally how I found out about this. No one else caught it. No, like, the first person we went to was an ophthalmologist, and he basically wrote us off and said, "Alright, well, his eyes will correct over time because he has intermittent extropia,
Mhm,
where if he's not focused, then his eyes will both deviate to the opposite.
mhm.
There's not one particular eye that's lazy." So, he said, "No patching, basically just do what you're doing," and I'm like, "Okay, great." So, yeah, we're going to a different ophthalmologist next time.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how parents we can diagnose our kids because, with the power of, like, us searching and Facebook and having a community and just learning from each other is just so invaluable.
Yeah.
Truly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's plausible that there are a lot of people, say, over the age of, like, 50 who have MCHS who are not diagnosed because they just, are in a group home somewhere or something, and they don't have people to advocate on their behalf, and they never got the genetic testing. I mean, really in the last 10 years or so is when genetic testing has become widely available, so we are really fortunate to live when we do, and to that point, like, people have a lot of opinions about AI, but, like, I use it all the time in a research context. You have to be really careful with it because it'll just make up sources that don't exist all the time, which is just bananas to me. But for, like, general research purposes, and learning about stuff like this, like, it's such a great tool that people 30 years ago even, like, you'd have had to go to a library and look through a card catalog. You'd have had to know what you were looking for and then go find it and then read about it, whereas all that stuff's been eliminated and
Get a
normally
quick
find you can normally find somewhere on the internet that has a summary of the scientific thing that you were trying to read through, except for actual MCHS, that's all in actual scientific papers. But for the most part, there are a lot more resources now than there were.
I actually used AI to summarize the actual, like, diagnosis for Noah's, report, because a radiologist make it very hard to understand, but or I guess it would be the geneticist.
Mhm.
And that helped to bring it down to layman's terms, and I understood it a lot better once I did that. It's really neat how we can use it to benefit and understand even with, like, your scientific background, my nursing background, like, if it's hard for us to understand, I can't even imagine people who don't have, like, exposure to, this type of research.
Yeah, I mean, genetics in particular is just like I mean, everything's complicated when you get down to it, but just like absurd, there's something on the order of billions of base pairs that code for, thousands of genes. And then humans in particular, I'm actually going to do an interview with a evolutionary geneticist in a couple weeks, but I was listening to a podcast and I just bought a book on this the other day. Humans in particular are way more susceptible to mutations than you would expect based on like other similar mammals. Their genome's way bigger than you would expect. And it's just for whatever reason we're way more susceptible to things like this. So it's just crazy how complicated it all gets so fast.
Did you guys find out if Leo's was de novo? Did you guys get tested?
Yeah, it
Mm,
was.
Yeah, we did too.
yeah. Yeah, and we like the other thing is and this goes back to like the thing I was talking about earlier, rare genetic any one rare genetic disorder is rare, but like 20% of 10 or 20%, I can't remember, of people have some rare genetic disorder. Like we got tested when she was pregnant because I had a brother who had a rare
Yep.
mitochondrial defect, so I got tested for that. I have people in my family who have what's called Stickler syndrome, which is like a um, connective tissue disorder, which it seems like based on I got tested for that and I don't have it, but I actually have a really small palate deformity. I thought I thought everybody had like a hole in the roof of their mouth because the doctors never caught it,
He
and
was
then
22 when we figured out that
and I, like,
figured out that
mentioned
was
it to my mom one day that, like, something got stuck in my mouth hole, and she was like, "What the hell are you talking about, Eli? Like, people don't have a mouth hole." So, it seems like that was probably it's probably not even sticklers, it's probably something different because I
Yeah.
got the genetic testing and tested negative for it, but I guess my point is, like, this stuff's really common in the aggregate,
Yeah.
and people don't even realize it.
Yeah, and that was kind of what was going through my mind whenever we initially got his diagnosis, and that's why I didn't have, like, much of an effect or a response to it because I'm like, I feel like a lot of people probably have something weird with their DNA with, how we've all evolved. But I guess learning more about how important F2C is for our body is what changed it and put things into perspective. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how just like this microscopic little piece that is missing can just do so much for your body and
Mhm.
just how it just changes your life trajectory.
Yeah, it's nuts. Keep doing this. How has your experience been with, like, navigating resources for
Honestly, pretty aggravating. There's not really like one person that we can reach out to that has all of the resources. It's just kind of been us trying to figure it out. And, finding our people. I always joke about like having therapists is kind of like dating around. You have to find the right person that fits your family.
You're
That like,
not wrong. That's totally
yeah, your child's gotta like them. You've gotta like them because 'cause you're gonna be spending lots and lots of time with them. So, naturally, I've gotten used to networking with them, like, "Hey, do you know if there's anything that could benefit?" That's how we found out about hippotherapy. It's how we found out about neuro, feedback, like, just asking people. I know Adam probably gets annoyed because I talk a little bit too much with people, but I'm like, that's how we're going to find out the best things for him. Because there's not really like, "Go to this one website. It's gonna tell you exactly what to do with this diagnosis."
Yeah. Um, in terms of, like, assistance programs and things like that, like you mentioned whatever Tennessee's early intervention program is earlier, have you guys how has your experience been with navigating those things, particularly in Tennessee?
It's been good for the most part, but I'm very aggravated that there's nothing in between. Like, we basically were on our own from after age 5 to 18 because they don't go off of, like, a child having a disability, they only go off of your income to help you with resources and stuff. So, I feel like it's gonna be really hard if he's gonna need 6 therapies a week like we're doing right now after the age of 5.
I would yeah. Again, I'm not familiar with Tennessee's law, but I would imagine there has to be some waiver programs in Tennessee.
Well, Ohio's is relatively new, like, within the last 5 years or so. They were talk I we just actually I had a meeting at the board of DD for our county just last week, and they told me that it was, like, right before COVID that they started having, like, local funding for those types of things. Like, we're looking into like, an accessible stroller for 'em for, like, at school or to ride the bus out to, because they do hippotherapy out at the DD as well. So just,
That's
like, that
another
kind of
thing
thing.
though, like this is a bit of a tangent, but, like, even the programs that they have, they're like, "Oh, well, we can bus him out to this place to do hippotherapy." It's like, "Okay, so you're gonna put him on a bus or in a van with some stranger," you know what I mean? Like, but I'm sure all the bus drivers our district has is great, but it takes a certain kind of person to kind of jive with Leo, and then they're gonna take him so like, even there's been plenty of times where there's resources that sort of nominally exist, but they're more complicated than they're worth to actually access them, and
Yeah.
that's really frustrating. I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent.
No, it's
What were you saying here?
I don't know, it's fine.
Okay.
No, we do get there is a waiver program, I guess you could call it that it's called Katie Beckett here. It's like it gives you X amount of money for per year until he turns 18.
yeah,
So that helps, but it's
yeah.
not like anything to like giving free services per se.
Yeah, it's basically it's like they give you a certain amount of money, but, it pretty much only covers, like, one therapy. So, we're just like, we have to pick and choose and hope that our insurance will cover future therapies, but it's just a lot. So,
Yeah.
we try not to think about it until the day comes.
Yeah, when I say waiver programs, what I'm thinking about is programs that waive the income requirements for Medicare or Medicaid.
Medicaid. Mm-mm,
There's
Uh,
nothing like that in Tennessee?
no.
Medicare kicked us off.
Yeah.
Really?
They said that they messed up and we make too much money. I think it was like 10 grand too much. And yeah, they're like, "All right, so you're on your own." So I'm like, that if I had something that I could change, I would make sure every child with a lifelong disability is covered. And this is a discussion I have with a lot of people that I'm like, "Is there anything that we can do? Anything?" Because, like, we can't afford to go down to one job to that level of poverty that they will give us health insurance with for him. But there is one girl that I talked to that her daughter was born with a physical disability that was very known at birth, and she has health insurance for life. Noah we didn't know his disability at birth, so he didn't automatically get it. So why doesn't he get it now since we know he's not ever gonna just randomly have all the MEF2C?
Right,
So
yeah.
I don't understand how, like, how that goes. So a lot of, like, that's why I get aggravated because, like, middle class people, this is my one of my tangents. You know, all of our money goes to taxes, and then the rest of it goes to medical bills, and what are we left with?
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
no one to help us, just, like, praying that something will come through like that. I mean, there is a website now that I have you guys ever heard of was it Connect? It's a grant website, I'll have to find it. There's that, but even then, you have to spend days going through thousands of grants and see if you qualify, and then the few grants that I've applied for, they said we make too much money. So I'm just like, "Ah."
Yeah.
We go
Well,
run into the same
right,
exact
yeah, and, like,
scenario.
Aggravating.
you talk about, like, I think no matter what end of the political spectrum you're on, you we could all agree that there is a lot of superfluous things that our tax money is being spent on.
Mhm.
Like, I sort of morally and ethically don't have any problems with paying taxes if it's going to improve society and help people, but, like, for everything we pay and, it's not just you and me, like, there's all kinds of different people with different disabilities and, sort of
Yeah,
setbacks that they have to deal with, and they don't get any help. And it's just crazy that, we're supposedly the most advanced country in the world, and we can't figure these things
we have
out.
to figure it out, yeah, and there's some states where they will pay the parents to be the caregiver.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, Tennessee is not one of them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, we've talked to multiple families who have moved to Colorado specifically just for their social
Benefit.
programs. Yeah, Colorado and Minnesota apparently are both really great.
Yeah. Maybe we can bring that to, one of the big houses and hopefully get that nationwide someday.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Colorado, I can't remember. I think we were talking with Jennifer and Keith Aguirre, and it's on the order of, like, tens of thousands of dollars a year they get in, like, reimbursements to pay for things for their daughter on top of, like, on top of the Medicare and everything else, so
Yeah.
and then it's just yeah, it's
Yeah.
bananas. We were we were just on Saturday, on Leah's birthday, we went to Morgantown for a West Virginia football game, and there was Leo's, like, the size of a five-year-old, he's big, and there's nowhere for her to change him.
Yeah.
She I mean, you had to use the baby.
Yeah, I used the baby thing, and his legs were just, like, dangling off of the edge, and his head was, like, at the end of the thing, and
Right, and there are people who, MEF2C or otherwise, who are very valuable members of our society who have, perfectly intact minds that have to suffer the indignity of being changed on, like, the dirty floor of a bathroom or in the back of somebody's car or something
Yeah.
because we can't, like, it's crazy to me that things like that just completely get overlooked.
Yeah. Yeah. Even going down to like high chair or we use those clip on high chairs whenever we go out to eat, and now his legs are barely fitting through it. So we're just like, okay, so what are we going to do once he outgrows that?
Right, yeah.
Like finding adaptable stuff to fit his body or even down to onesies. Like after 24 months, you don't get any bigger sizes. That's it. So for us, it's a lot easier for him to be in onesies so he can't fiddle with his diaper and you just can't find anything. So it's really disappointing. There's so many disabled people out there that there's not more like resources that we can find for
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. How has it been on your older child being Noah's brother?
We attempt to give him attention or more attention, but he definitely, I think he notices that he doesn't. But he doesn't really act out in that way, which is nice because I think he knows that there's something wrong in a sense. That may sound bad how I said that, but that there's something different. And so he has a lot of one-on-one time with his grandparents, which helps. And then we attempt to when we can, but definitely a lot of time is spent more towards Noah than the older brother.
Yeah. We try to verbalize as much as we can, like hey, brother has to do this therapy because, he has to learn how to be big and strong like you, and just trying to include him as much as he can. But he's a very intuitive child. So I worry that he like holds a lot of emotions in. And, I hope that he doesn't grow up to resent him. Like, it's just those things, I don't truly know until he's older and he can tell us. But yeah, he doesn't really play with him. He kind of they're separate. And yeah, it's just kind of hard because I just hope that I think he loves him. It's just I think it's hard until he can play with him for him to like truly have a relationship with him. But there was something else I was going to say. Now I can't remember.
Really easy to do, isn't it?
It is. It is. I know.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, my parents adopted a sibling group of 3 kids when I was 10, 12, somewhere in there. And they weren't, like, physically disabled, but they had come from bad home situations and had, behavioral problems, and they all have. My point with that is that I went from being an only child to having 3 siblings, and it took a lot of attention away from me
Yeah.
at the time, and I now look at that as how incredible my parents were, that they took on that burden and did so well with it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that. What's your older son's name?
Lincoln.
Lincoln? I think that it might be hard for Lincoln, but I think that in the long run, he'll have the respect and the reverence, and he'll get a lot of good lessons from that, and I don't think he'll end up resenting you or Noah.
Yeah, we really try to give him as much one-on-one time as we can. Sometimes we'll have Noah go to grandparents and we spend a day with Lincoln, or, we always put Noah to bed first so we can spend some time outside with Lincoln. So just having like that one-on-one time and then like vice versa, we spend one-on-one time with Noah while Lincoln's at grandparents. So really trying to show him that we're being intentional, and hopefully he'll remember that when he's older. But it's all up to his perception and how he remembers things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine. So what do you think are some things about being, um, a MEF2C parent that are hard that wouldn't be obvious to people on the outside?
Do you have an answer? I know I carry around a lot of guilt, like, people that were pregnant at the same time as me and seeing their children accomplish milestones that I don't know if Noah will hit one day or may not hit for a long time. I think it's hard for people to look at these children and see their disability because it's more intellectual. It's more like bring it down to using their body. But like if you just look at them, they look like, quote unquote normal children. So I think it's hard to tell people that, they are disabled in a sense. Like there is one girl that I worked with, she had a child with a really bad cleft palate and cleft lip. He had a physical disability that she had to work through, and people saw that. I think for us, it's hard because it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. It's a lot of therapies. It's a lot of like fatigue of just being exhausted. All of the homework that the therapies give us, and just the research and trying to be involved and trying to stay up to date on everything. So I think that's kind of the hard part of being, MFT parents versus like other parents that have like children with disabilities.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier the sort of social isolation that just comes from, like, the complications that come from that too, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Leo's birthday, my mom, has some friends who have, uh, autistic children because she's a special needs teacher, she's very involved in that space, and she invited several of them to Leo's birthday party, which was great, but there's one family in particular that has 2 kids that are autistic, and almost they came in and they said hi, and then, like, either one or both of them, like, they have to play one-on-one with both their kids all the time. Like, one's with their son, one's with their daughter, and, like, based on how well either one of them are doing, like, okay, you go hang out with her for a little while, she's having a meltdown. When you need to tap out, get me and I'll stay with our other kid. And so one of the parents and one of the kids was almost always in a different room at the party. And like at one point I walked up to my mom and I was like, "Is there anything we can do for them to help them?" And she said, "No, just invite them anyway." And I was like, "Oh, that makes perfect sense." Like that's just to be able to include people despite those things is really important, I think. So, unfortunately, probably most of the people that are listening to that or listening to this already know that, and the people who are not listening are the ones that need to hear it. But, um,
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think we're all just, like, so exhausted. There's not really much left in our battery to go out and be social and do things for ourselves.
yeah, to put the energy that your marriage needs into it. I mean, it's just really hard to manage everything.
Yeah, yeah. I've told Adam, like, I can see how marriages fail after having, like, special needs children. It's so hard. You don't have to give 100%, you have to give 150%, like, every single day, both sides.
Yeah, I mean, if you just consider the sleep deprivation alone, like, and the arguments that arise from that, like, that's enough to break people.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it took us a while to kind of find our way because we were parents, and then you move to special needs parents, and it's just so much more. So,
Is is no does Noah have a preference on parents? Is he really clingy to one or the other of you?
He reacts better to her than he does to me, but that's I don't know, that he works with her or she works with
I
him a lot more than I do, which probably is why.
and I took him to most of his therapy, so I feel like we had a lot of bonding with that.
Does he like, Leo, I mean, we'll wrestle and stuff, and he'll definitely climb on me, and he, like, likes to put his toes in my beard, which drives me nuts. But he treats Haley as his own personal jungle gym. I mean, he wants to be on her, pulling her hair, touching her
Constant.
all the time, which is another you talk about that fatigue that accumulates, like,
Yeah.
she's just you're being touched almost constantly. I guess I was just curious because you said earlier that Noah doesn't particularly like hugs. I was just curious if he was
Yeah.
like
He
that or
doesn't
not.
like to be touched. So
Honestly,
he's
he's
the complete opposite of that. If you're touching him, he's almost pitching a fit that you're touching him.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, which is funny because our oldest is a complete opposite. He will come downstairs and be like, "Can we snuggle?" Like, it's there's so our oldest is, very audio sensitive, so whenever Noah starts screaming, Lincoln starts asking for the headphones, and we're just like, "Okay, are you happy? Are you happy? Okay."
Yeah.
I think sometimes God just laughs. It gets interesting, but, yeah, like, very early on with Noah, like, he never wanted to face me, he always wanted to be faced around, even in the baby carrier, he does not like the hugging, so that's why whenever, that 2 seconds that he shields his face from the sun,
Take it
we
in.
accept that hug, even though it's not truly a hug, we're like, "We'll take it."
Yeah, there are a lot of things like that where, like, when Leo was littler now he's old enough now, I think we can interpret his attention a lot better, but when he was littler, he would just kind of, like, smush his mouth against you sometimes, and we would be like, "That's a kiss." You know what I mean? Even if he's just, like, licking the salt from the sweat off my face or whatever, I'm gonna choose to interpret it that
Yep,
way because
yep,
it's
it's
better
affection.
for everybody. Yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
Leo he'll take us to our bedroom, and he wants to lay on the bed, and then he wants you to lay on like, smush him on
With all
top
of
of
your
him.
body
Yes.
weight.
He loves that deep pressure stuff, and he loves like, he'd let me shoot him out of a catapult if I could. Like, he loves being flung around and upside down and stuff, but we have talked to other people where that's not the case, so it doesn't seem like that's,
Yeah.
universal.
That's
Yeah.
more of, like, for our older son. He loves being thrown around and having that sensory input.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's funny how they can be so different. But even, like, If I bring him around other kids, the other kids almost get offended that Noah's just ignoring them the whole time. I'm sorry.
But he may not even be ignoring them. Like, he's in his own little world, but I guarantee he's paying very close attention to
Yeah.
Mhm.
you.
But he's definitely a people watcher. We'll sit outside and he'll just like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get so excited with cars passing by. He'll start like stimming with his fingers and then he'll put his hands together like this. It's just, he's so funny. But
Yeah, and people seem to gravitate towards them as well, like, Haley well, who was it? The teacher, the aide, someone was telling her the other day that there
Oh,
were kids on the playground fighting over who was going to get to push Leo on the swing. So, like, it just seems like they have, like an energy that a lot of people
yeah,
really appreciate.
he's so he pulls a whole like 150 or 180
it's
whenever he
late.
gets
He turns around.
it's late. He'll be like super giggly and happy, but then he'll just be like, "Oh wait, no, I'm mad." So
Yeah.
like super so he'll just be in the deep of belly laughing as soon as like you're done giving him attention. He's like, "No." So it's funny to see just his character come out. He's always had one. He's always known exactly what he wanted, when he wanted it.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of them have very I've noticed this about autistic people in general, they have very expressive, like, serious eyebrows too, like, they're always very serious until they're not, but
Yeah.
it's really fun because even, like, as a tiny baby, he would give you all kinds of, crazy looks and cock his eyebrow and do all these things. It's really funny. So, what do you think have been, the best things that have come out of, like, lessons that you've learned being Noah's parents that, like, maybe you've applied to other places to life?
stop looking.
I'm letting you go. He hates when I do this, but
For everybody listening, we are doing this after bedtime, so for us, it's almost 10:30 at night, and for that you guys, it's like 9:30, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I
tired.
give him a hard time. We've been together for 14 years. Yeah, I know for me personally, I've learned a different thing from each child. With Lincoln, I've learned so much about just love and grace, and then with Noah, I've learned that I'm just not in control. I've always been a control freak, I feel like most millennials are. I just I had, like, life just kinda planned out, and whenever he came along, he just kinda said, "Skirt," like, "Nope, we're not doing that," and it was hard, it was really hard for me to, like, just grasp around that I'm not in control, but he's helped me to slow down and appreciate the little things, like, with the therapies, you don't see much giant progress right away. So he's taught me to appreciate the little wins. Like, hey, Noah's moving his tongue left and right. Like, that's incredible. Good job, bud. Like, just the little wins. And I feel like I've never really let myself appreciate the little wins before. So that's been just the beauty and all that. And I don't really feel like I'm fearful anymore about, having a special needs child. I feel like it's definitely a blessing because their heart is just so big. And what a testament for God to just trust us with this beautiful boy. So or just love him so much. Do you feel like he's taught you anything?
Yeah, I think it's just more of like don't try to be so much future and be more now.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You like we've always had these plans and then the special needs child come, it's like, okay, those plans are not
Yeah.
happening. Slow down a bit and live now instead of trying to
Mhm.
plan, oh, what are we gonna do in 10 years?
Yeah, yeah, I've always been bad about that, and he kinda grounds me. He's like, "Okay, Mariah, but we need to figure out what we're doing for dinner first." I'm just like, "Okay, I just can't think that far. I have to live in today," and honestly, that's helped my anxiety so much. Like, I don't even look at my work schedule the next week because I'm like, "Too far."
Yeah, well, and I think, for dads in particular, like, a lot of the ways at least most guys I know, a lot of the ways they bond with their kids and with sons in particular is through physical things like sports and, like, my dad and my pap and I all hunt and fish together, we go on multiple trips every year, Every time I see my dad, we're talking about the Mountaineers, we're talking about the Steelers, we're going to games, things like that, and, like, coming to my sporting events and things, and I think taking that away was something for me in particular, like, specifically as a dad, that was difficult to deal with. So I think that kinda talking about the future, that I don't know. I don't know exactly where I was going with that, but that's the point
Well,
I
I
have.
can kinda see it's not usually traditional for dads to, like, be involved, I guess, in therapy, so that's kind of been something that he's had to really adjust to. I've had to be pretty vocal about that because in the beginning, it was, just me being driving, and then driving to work, and then just doing that on my days off, and, we had a come to Jesus moment. I'm like, "Okay, we gotta split the role." Like, that's the only way that we're gonna stay sane. If you do a little bit, I do a little bit, and then we give report off of how those therapies have done, just like we do, like, in the hospital. So, I think we do pretty good with just kind of reminding each other, like, "Hey, did you work with Noah today? What did you do?" Or how we just kind of supported him and our kids that day. So, it's been an adjustment and, it's kinda hard because you can't really do the rough stuff with him yet, but there's some other ways that you have found to bond with him.
I think that's kind of where you were going with that. It's just like you found other ways to bond with him in ways that you didn't necessarily think that you would.
Yeah, and you have to adjust your expectations of the future so much, because so many things that, like, like, playing catch with your son or whatever are based on those motor skills. So that changes. Whereas it seems like moms think a lot more about, like, graduating high school and, sending them to homecoming and things like that, obviously are gonna look very different, but things that are still achievable. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, and even, like, as a dad, like, Haley takes Leo to therapy almost all the time just because of the way our schedules work. But, like, even, like, if you're a dad and even today, if you're a dad and you show up in a classroom, or, like, I the lady from the Board of Disabilities called me the other day, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, I usually call the mom first, but she didn't pick up, so I figured I'd call you." I was like, "Lady, I called you, like, 2 weeks ago. I'm the one who started all this. You shouldn't even be bothering her." So, you know, everybody else has to adjust to that too. So,
Yeah, it's all the tiny stuff that kinda make you go insane. Like, the
mhm,
waiver that we were talking about, we have to submit receipts and doctor's notes, and we have to drive to pediatrician's offices and get the right checks done and signatures and submit it, and then they don't wanna reimburse you, so then you're
mhm,
fighting them on the phone, and it's just it's so draining. Just
Another
all
full-time job.
it really is. I feel like I should add case manager on my resume because that's essentially what I am, what we both are now. It's it just drives me nuts.
yeah, absolutely.
Lost it.
I don't know, man. What are your hopes for the future for Noah and for sort of the MCHS community as a whole? And what message would you want to give the MCHS community?
I hope that Noah is just completely himself and whatever he decides to be, whatever he's designed to be. I know he's gonna do something big, getting him and all these other kiddos involved in the landmark studies. That's pretty incredible to be a part of history with just helping tons of kids to come in the future. But yeah, just anyone who just finds out about this diagnosis, I just encourage get involved, start networking with parents. I feel like I've learned way more with parents than any other medical staff.
Mhm.
But yeah, we'll see where life takes us and just keep trying as hard as we can. You have anything you say?
No. Yeah, I think a way to think about, and it kinda ties into, again, sort of your hopes for the future and everything, and what you thought the future was gonna look like, is that potential wasn't wasted or lost, it was just transmuted.
Yeah.
Because, like, he may not, Leo's probably not gonna be the state championship quarterback or whatever. I'm not raising a quarterback, but he'd be like the left tackle or something. But he's still got all these opportunities to affect the world, and these other ways that a lot of people don't have. So it's just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being a part of this community now, just the regular special needs community, you can't put caps on these kids. They're going to do what they're meant to do. And we're here on this planet to just support them and help them complete their mission, whatever that might be.
Alrighty. Well, thanks to our audience for listening. Thanks so much to you guys for being our guests tonight. If people want to learn more about the show, they can visit us on Facebook, the MEF2C Cast. If you have questions, comments, concerns, want to be a guest, please email us at mef2cast@gmail.com. And if you want to support the show, go to our shop, which will be linked in the description, and buy a t-shirt. And again, thanks so much, everybody.